There's an old adage that goes, some engagements culminate in happiness, while others lead to marriage. For the initial 8 years of my marriage, I felt like the luckiest man alive, having seemingly found the perfect blend of happiness and matrimony. However, doubts soon crept in. My wife, Eleanor, and I hailed from starkly different backgrounds, but such disparities mattered little in our quaint Scandinavian town. She, the sole offspring of a local businessman often dabbling in the gray areas between legality and illegality, resulting in occasional necessary vacations to government-sanctioned locales. Eleanor, residing in a spacious abode, had been a celebrated socialite during her high school days, hosting raucous parties, particularly in her father's absence during his governmental respites. I never partook in her revelries, nor do I recall ever receiving an invitation. I am David Hamilton, bearing no relation to the illustrious noble Hamilton lineage of our land. At the age of 16, I promptly joined a motorcycle club, obtained my license, and depleted all my savings from odd jobs and birthday presents to acquire a used 125 cubic centimeters Kawasaki. One must be 18 for larger bikes, much to my parents' chagrin. Naturally, we bikers, even us juniors, indulged in our own brand of spirited gatherings, rendering the high society soirees inconsequential to me. While our local motorcycle club remained unaffiliated with renowned international counterparts, we somehow garnered a rather unsavory reputation, advantageous in some respects yet problematic in others. Following my tenure at the local high school, I pursued further education in economics, eventually landing a position as an accountant at one of the lengthy named international accounting firms, earning a respectable income. Yet, despite my professional success, I had yet to encounter Miss Right as I celebrated my 27th birthday. Numerous Miss Half-Rights had crossed my path, but none met my exacting standards. Eleanor, possessing a keen intellect, managed to pursue a teaching degree amidst her fervent socializing and secured employment in our hometown. However, she stumbled upon an unexpected revelation. While she had enjoyed popularity during her schooling years, her former upper-class admirers showed no interest in serious relationships with a party-centered girl like her. Her former peers, while eager to engage in clandestine dalliances, did so for shallow reasons she refused to entertain. Though she encountered some genuine suitors, none proved to be a perfect match. The most enduring of these relationships culminated in a protracted long-distance affair that ultimately proved fruitless. Following an inter-will meeting, a few members convened for drinks at the pub, and after a generous intake of wine, one remarked, "It's a shame that 3 lovely members are still single. Can't we intervene?" The consensus was reached among the group, and a straightforward plan was devised and agreed upon. A week later, myself and 2 other singles, all members of the Round Table, received invitations to 3 blind dates. We all agreed to the simple terms, to go on 3 dates and, if the girl desired, a second date, after which it was up to us to arrange further meetings. Just a few days later, we embarked on our first dates. My initial experience wasn't particularly memorable. Despite my efforts to steer the conversation away from her attire, the girl, though undeniably beautiful, remained fixated on discussing her wardrobe throughout the evening. A few days later, I found myself on my second blind date with Eleanor, fondly known as the party girl. She remembered me from our school days and greeted me with a casual, "Hi, Tobacco. Nice to see you. What a pleasant surprise." She affectionately referred to me as Tobacco, drawing from the fame of Count Hamilton's tobacco, evidently forgetting my given name. Encountering the most sought-after party girl from our school days at a blind date arranged by her friends was indeed surprising. Sensing any potential awkwardness, I quickly assured her that our past interactions held no sway over the present, which she agreed to, and to my delight, our date proceeded smoothly. The third blind date proved equally enjoyable. My companion, a recently divorced woman with a radiant smile, chose not to delve into the details of her past marriage, and I didn't press for them. Both Eleanor and the divorcee expressed interest in a second date, to which I gladly agreed. My subsequent date with Eleanor went exceptionally well, leading to plans for further outings. Even my other date went smoothly, resulting in an exchange of contact information. During our third date, Eleanor and I watched a new film before retiring to my apartment for tea or some other refreshment. Details escaped me, as our mutual desire quickly escalated into fervent passion. Within moments of closing the door, we found ourselves locked in a passionate embrace, swiftly shedding our inhibitions. Despite my initial hesitation regarding protection, the intensity of the moment overwhelmed any concerns. As our lovemaking reached its climax, we surrendered to the ecstasy of the experience, both finding release in a cascade of pleasure. Following our passionate encounter, concerns about potential risks surfaced. Eleanor reassured me, mentioning that her menstrual cycle had ended just 2 days prior and that abortion services were freely available in our country. Moreover, the risk of HIV transmission through heterosexual intercourse among the general population was relatively low during those times. 3 months after our initial date, I came to the realization that Eleanor was indeed the Miss Right I had been seeking. We took the leap and began cohabiting in a modest 3-room apartment. 2 years later, we solidified our commitment by purchasing a home, exchanging vows in marriage, and welcoming our first child, a son. 18 months following his birth, our family expanded further with the arrival of a daughter. The matchmaking service organized by the Inner Will ladies proved to be a resounding success, resulting in newfound spouses for all 3 of their single members. For a decade, Eleanor and I enjoyed a harmonious relationship until subtle signs of trouble began to emerge. While individually insignificant, when viewed collectively, they formed a troubling pattern. Despite my inquiries, Eleanor insisted that nothing was amiss in our marriage. Determined to uncover the source of our discord, I broached the topic delicately, suggesting that her past might hold some clues. However, her vehement reaction suggested otherwise, dismissing my concerns as unfounded paranoia. Despite Eleanor's attempts to conceal any hints of trouble, her behavior became increasingly guarded, marked by a lack of provocative attire and a reluctance to engage in social outings with newfound acquaintances. Suspiciously, she occasionally left her cell phone at home during outings, seemingly to demonstrate its innocuous contents. Sensing the trap, I refrained from investigating. Eleanor's father had relocated his business to the national capital, where he managed to navigate the periphery of legality, avoiding the repercussions of his past misdemeanors. This was facilitated by the inefficiencies of the legal system, particularly in the capital region, enabling individuals like him to thrive unchecked. Despite his newfound prosperity, he lamented the loss of his former government connections during his visits to correctional facilities. However, our children had a strong affection for their grandfather, who proved to be a doting and attentive figure in their lives. He owned a charming summer house in the expansive archipelago beyond our capital city and made it a tradition to invite our family for 1 or 2 weeks each summer while he and his younger partner were away. This year was no exception. During the first 2 weeks of August, we enjoyed the idyllic setting of his island retreat, blessed with delightful weather. As customary, Eleanor and I shared household responsibilities seamlessly, and our intimate life flourished, fostering a renewed sense of hope for our relationship. Yet, my suspicions resurfaced when a seemingly innocuous incident occurred. Given the lack of amenities on our small island, we occasionally ventured to a nearby larger island for meals. Just before departing for our vacation, Eleanor had acquired a new cell phone equipped with a 5-megapixel camera, which she fiddled with in the cuddy. While I steered the boat, positioned just outside the cuddy, I observed her reaction to an incoming text message, noting the radiant smile that adorned her face. During dinner, I casually inquired about the message's sender, prompting an unexpected outburst from Eleanor, who vehemently denied receiving any such communication. Despite her initial reaction, she eventually apologized for her overreaction, but her subsequent behavior raised my suspicions further. She adamantly avoided using her phone in my presence and resisted my attempts to capture family moments with it. Hours later, she reluctantly handed me the phone to take pictures, but not without a hint of apprehension. Sensing her unease, I cautiously probed about any potentially compromising messages, eliciting a chilling silence from her. The following day, tensions escalated during a trip to the larger island for provisions. As Eleanor stood at the helm, her phone and purse lay exposed in the cuddy. When our daughter requested a Band-Aid, I seized the opportunity to investigate the phone, only to be caught in the act by Eleanor. In a desperate bid to prevent me from discovering the truth, she lunged for the phone, inadvertently causing it to plunge into the water. Despite her claims of it being an accident, I couldn't shake the feeling that she had deliberately disposed of the phone to conceal whatever message had provoked her distress. I had no inclination to engage in a confrontation with Eleanor at that moment, so I simply advised her to contact our family's insurance provider, who managed all our insurance policies. She lamented the loss of the photographs that had sunk with the phone. Upon returning home, I resumed work the following week, while Eleanor still had a week of holiday remaining, which suited me perfectly. With Eleanor temporarily without a cell phone, I hoped she would resort to using our landline, which played into my plans. Several weeks prior to our visit to her father's summer house, I had purchased a recorder capable of capturing incoming and outgoing calls. However, since it failed to yield any insight into Eleanor's clandestine activities, I had disconnected it. Upon our return home from the island, I promptly reactivated it. Eleanor was astute enough to discern my suspicions. If she indeed had a lover but still considered me her priority, she should have severed all ties with him immediately and refrained from using our home phone. Had she done so, it would have been exceedingly difficult, if not impossible, for me to gather any incriminating evidence against her. On Monday morning, I departed for work, leaving Eleanor claiming to have numerous errands to attend to. Upon returning home, she informed me of her visit to the insurance company regarding her lost cell phone, expressing optimism about its replacement. She then purportedly offered assistance to our neighbor's wife with a birthday party arrangement before departing. Once she had left, I wasted no time in listening to the recorder. Her initial call, following my departure for work, was to someone named Robert. Their conversation hinted at a deeper connection, with Eleanor instructing him to contact her via our home number at specific times. Subsequent calls from her female friends provided no useful information. Then came the call from Robert. Eleanor. Hello, my darling. Finally, we can talk. Why haven't you responded to my messages? Because I no longer have my cell phone. I had to dispose of it when David grew suspicious and attempted to read your messages. Oh, my love, I've been eagerly awaiting your call. His tone turned anxious as he inquired, did he see the message? Have you informed him about our plans? Eleanor reassured him, no, but he became suspicious when he heard the notification sounds of incoming text messages, which I refused to reveal to him. Have you discussed our plan with Linda yet? Not yet. I'll do it when the timing feels right. By the way, I've got good news for you. I'll be in your town next Wednesday, so we can discuss our plans. Any ideas for how we should spend the day? Oh, my love, I adore you. How about a passionate lunchtime rendezvous in my bed, followed by a few hours at your hotel after I finish work? Sounds amazing, truly amazing. I'm already aroused at the thought of your sweet pussy and tight ass. You have the most delightful pussy I've ever tasted. I'm already dripping with anticipation thinking about your large, hard cock. It's the best cock I've ever had in my mouth. After some further conversation, they concluded their chat, and I made the decision to end my marriage. What a treacherous woman. She only indulged me with oral sex once a year as a birthday gift and threatened divorce if I insisted on anal intercourse. While I had no interest in her ass, the fact that she willingly satisfied this other man while denying me what I desired infuriated me and left me feeling disgusted. Once I regained my composure, I resolved to confront them the following Wednesday. Despite Eleanor's efforts to erase any trace of their communication from the phone's display, I was able to retrieve his numbers from my telecom provider's customer page. With his cell number and work office number in hand, it was straightforward to uncover his identity: Robert Hansen, 31 years old, married to Linda Hansen, 29 years old, with 2 young daughters from their marriage and a son from a previous relationship. They resided at an address owned by his wife. Hansen operated a commission-based sales company specializing in welding equipment. He lived in a town roughly 210 kilometers away from us, making impromptu encounters unlikely. Financially, he seemed to be struggling with significant debts, while his wife worked part-time as a secretary at their local courthouse. I had always believed that Eleanor and I had a happier family life compared to many others we knew. Despite envy from acquaintances, she evidently preferred a younger boy toy with a purportedly larger penis, if her description of his size was accurate and not mere flattery. Eleanor grew increasingly perplexed when I showed no interest in sex on Friday evening and continued to ignore her advances on Saturday. Though she made feeble attempts on Sunday morning, she seemed to give up after I expressed feeling unwell, a sentiment exacerbated by our sordid phone conversations with Robert and the disintegration of our marriage. Her final call to Robert from our home phone occurred on Monday, and their plans remained unchanged from a week prior. On Wednesday morning, I roused her from slumber early, treating her with a callousness akin to a prostitute, engaging in intercourse devoid of any tenderness or preamble. Her tears flowed freely afterward, followed by a look of concern when I failed to depart for work, throwing a wrench into her plans for a midday liaison. Concerned, she queried, "Is everything all right? You seem troubled." Anticipating her inquiry, I concocted a fabricated tale involving a fictitious acquaintance. "Oh, nothing to worry about. An old army buddy, Kent, a police officer, is still on leave and happens to be in town today for a private business matter. He's asked for my assistance, and I may need your help in a particular matter, if necessary." Her expression turned pallid as she responded, "Why me? I'm not involved with the police." "It's not police work per se. Kent has been tasked with surveilling a suspected adulterer staying at our local hotel, and he plans to install hidden cameras there. Should the suspect bring a companion to his room, my role is to identify her. Given your extensive network in town, your assistance would be invaluable if I fail to uncover her identity." Now visibly shaken, she retorted, "You know I can't participate in something like that. What would people think?" Reassuringly, I added, "No one will ever know. It would be wonderful if we could have lunch together, so you can meet my friend. He's actually a great guy." "No, thank you. I have other pressing matters today. Perhaps another time." "What pressing matters?" "That's none of your concern. Thank you for your gracious hospitality toward our guests." Her anger flared as she exclaimed, "So, your friend takes precedence over my job? We have a planning meeting at school after regular hours that may extend for a couple of hours or more. Remember that I'll be home late today." With that, she stormed off without further discussion. Hopefully, she refrained from bringing Robert home or visiting his hotel room. Even if she saw through my ruse, she would understand my pursuit of both Robert and her. Her anticipated day had suddenly taken a sour turn. I had arranged for servicing of my Audi A6, and the car company provided me with a silver metallic VW Golf for the day. Come lunchtime, I observed the parking lot where Eleanor had left her car, curious about her next move now that sex at our home or Robert's hotel was off the table for them. I prayed they would postpone their rendezvous until after her work. Upon her departure from the building, she drove to a small restaurant at the opposite end of town instead of the usual spot preferred by teachers near the school. She parked and entered, but with no sign of Robert's car, I lingered outside, allowing her time to place her order. Spotting him approaching, I entered and seated myself at her table. My dear wife was clearly displeased to find me there. She nearly exclaimed, "You? What on earth are you doing here?" "Having lunch." "And you?" I retorted. She remained silent as Robert approached our table and inquired, "May I join you?" Glancing at him, I responded, "Sure, if you and my wife are acquainted." Understanding the awkward situation, he apologized, "Oh, I'm terribly sorry. What a foolish mistake. I mistook you both for individuals from a company I visited yesterday. But you do bear a striking resemblance to each other, indeed." Her paramour was rather attractive, albeit with a slightly effeminate air and a stature smaller than mine. It was hard to fathom why this man would seek divorce to marry a woman 6 years his senior and 8 years older than his own wife. Despite catching sight of her lover, Eleanor appeared far from pleased. I quipped, "A curious coincidence." I spotted him leaving the hotel in a vehicle adorned with signage for a welding business. "Do you know him?" "Me? Why would I know a welder?" she snapped. "Because you mentioned having important matters during lunch, and when he approached, I half expected you were in the market for a welding robot. I'm not sure if he's amusing, but your jokes certainly aren't. It was a meeting regarding a headmaster position, postponed until tomorrow. And what about your pursuit of the alleged cheater? Where's your important friend? He had some tasks to attend to, but the cameras seem to be functioning admirably." "However, I've yet to capture any incriminating images," I replied. Before departing, she reminded me, "Don't forget about the kids. I have a meeting and will be home late today." Eleanor left work at the customary hour and parked at a supermarket. Moments later, Robert arrived, and they drove off toward the neighboring town. I was certain they were headed for the motel outside town, a discreet location favored for illicit liaisons. I called Eleanor's cell phone, feigning urgency. "Sorry to interrupt, but I have an urgent matter to discuss." "Are you still at the school?" Annoyed, she retorted, "No, I'm on the moon." "Of course, I'm at the school. Where else would I be?" "How amusing," I responded dryly. "Because I happen to be at the school, and there are no teacher cars in the lot, including yours." "How dense can you be?" "When I say I'm at the school, it means I'm working for the school, regardless of my physical location. Don't you understand?" "No," I admitted. With that, she terminated the call and declined any further communication. Switching my cell phone to stealth mode to avoid displaying my number on Linda Hansen's device, I observed Robert heading toward the motel and pressed the call button. She answered promptly, and I delivered my message. "I'm calling on behalf of the local anti-prostitution committee. We've been monitoring a notorious motel and regret to inform you that your husband, Robert Hansen, driving a black V70 with the license plate FUL 675 and bearing a welding tool company sign, has just arrived with a well-known part-time escort. Please intervene, or I must caution against unprotected intercourse with your husband in the future." Robert entered the reception, leaving Eleanor in the car. Pulling up next to her, I yanked open her door and shouted, "So, this is the important school meeting?" I didn't realize that indulging in ass-fucking with some damn pervert welding faggot was school business. Thrusting divorce papers at her, I yelled, "Sign these papers, and you're free to screw that damn ass-licking feminine faggot to your heart's content." She was stunned, bursting into hysterical tears, but failing to open the envelope containing the papers. Meanwhile, Robert emerged from the reception, clearly upset and engaged in a phone call. I don't believe he noticed me until he was merely 5 meters away. I was poised to greet him with a simple yet effective tactic. Raising his hands in a sort of peace gesture, he attempted to explain why I had discovered him and my wife at a motel. I sprinted toward him, landing a solid blow to his abdomen with my right fist and delivering a swift kick to his groin, causing him to collapse to his knees in agony, shock, and astonishment. Evidently, he was accustomed to talking his way out of trouble, but we old bikers favored action over words. I then opened the back door of his car, partially pulled him into the seat, and proceeded to pummel his face with my fists, rendering him nearly unrecognizable to his wife by the time he returned home. Afterward, I shoved him onto the floor between the seats, making him less conspicuous from the outside, and shut the car door. Eleanor continued to cry hysterically, but made no move to sign the papers, though it hardly mattered, as one party's signature was sufficient for divorce. She could contest the terms, but not the dissolution itself. However, she stood little chance of gaining much more, given that I had proposed shared custody of the children and an equal split of assets. Speaking to Eleanor in a calmer tone, I remarked, "I hope you're satisfied now that you've got the man of your dreams. Feel free to do whatever you like with him. I suggest taking him to the room he presumably booked here and allowing him some rest before indulging him with the fantastic sex you never gave me." Closing her door, I departed for home. Eleanor did not return that evening. I informed our relatives in town and her father that our marriage was over. Her father questioned me, "Aren't you overreacting? These seem like minor issues. What about my grandchildren?" "Your grandchildren will still be your grandchildren even if their parents aren't living together. You won't be denied seeing them." He eventually calmed down, labeling me an overreacting donkey who couldn't discern his own best interests. The following day, I took time off from work, and around 11 o'clock, Eleanor returned home. She tossed the divorce papers onto the kitchen table, exclaiming, "I will never sign these." "That's your decision. No matter how much you pay some lawyer, you won't get more than what's offered in those papers. It's your choice and your money. I've made a terrible mistake. Can we discuss it?" "Of course, we can talk. Why did you do it, and are you content now that you've gained your freedom from me and can be with Robert or anyone else you desire?" "I'm sorry for hurting you and our children. I've always abhorred infidelity and will forever regret my foolish actions. I knew it was wrong, but it felt right at the time. Robert was meant to be a brief fling, nothing more. I was careful and had no intention of hurting you because I love you deeply and always will. Why did you do it then? I wanted to feel desired and loved again before I became a grandmother. Robert and I have no plans for marriage. He was merely a passing fancy. It has nothing to do with my love for you. I love you deeply and unconditionally. I hope the devil will understand your excuses, but I don't. Have I been such a lousy husband that you felt the need to cheat on me with someone like Robert? Did you think I would accept you sneaking around behind my back? Did you consider the consequences for our children? I love you and our children and never intended to hurt any of you. I met Robert at a conference hotel, and he flattered me, making me feel desired. It was only sex, not love. You are my true love. Save that only sex excuse for him. If I'm your true love, why didn't you cancel your date yesterday? You should have realized I suspected something when I confronted you and stayed home from work. Did you truly believe my lunch at that distant restaurant was a coincidence? Yes, I did, because I never doubted your story about your police friend watching the hotel. He didn't exist. But even if your infatuation with Robert lowered your IQ to 50, you should have realized that you were the sought-after cheating wife. How could you miss that when I mentioned a cheating wife expecting to meet someone at the town hotel? Didn't you plan to meet Robert at the hotel after work? Yes, but we saw your slut hunting as an advantage, keeping you occupied at the hotel and away from our motel rendezvous. I was tempted to expose the charade right then and there by letting him join us at the restaurant table. But I was curious to see how far you'd go with him, even though you must have known I was suspicious. Your flimsy excuse about a secret school meeting place convinced me you didn't care about the consequences of meeting Robert. You knew it would be easy for me to uncover the truth about the non-existent meeting, but clearly you didn't care. She seemed to cling to hope that I would forgive her and continued, I cared a lot, and I convinced Annie and Lena to support my story. I never meant to hurt you or our children, and as long as you didn't know about Robert, you weren't hurt. He was supposed to be a brief fling, nothing more. Do you think I'm an idiot? You exchanged lovey-dovey text messages like a lovesick teenager, thinking I wouldn't catch on. You're not stupid, but his messages clearly clouded your judgment. If you had ended it after I saw that first message on the island, I would never have uncovered the truth, and you could have saved our marriage. I told him not to message during our vacation, but he forgot a few times, and they were innocent enough. Innocent, but compromising enough for you to toss a pricey phone into the sea. How long has this affair with Robert been going on? How many others were there before him? As I said, Robert is the first and last, and it's only been 3 months since I met him. 3 months too long. How often did you sleep with him? Did you do it in our bed? Never in our bed, believe me. Once in our spare room, once at a hotel here in town, and one night at a hotel in the county capital. That's it. One night? At Anne-Marie's birthday party. I left early because Robert was in town, and we spent the night at his hotel. Pussy hounds like Robert usually want access to all openings when they're with sluts. You never denied him anything, did you? She hesitated before replying, Of course I did, and I'm not a slut. Don't lie to me. You never denied him anything he wanted. Did you? After some sobbing, she admitted, no. You probably even went down on him after he fucked your ass without a condom. Did you? No, never. What do you think of me? What do I think? You're a cheating slut. Did he have you everywhere last night? No, of course not. We had more serious problems to deal with. He cursed me the whole way back to town while I drove him to his hotel, then I stayed at Annie's. Did you use protection? No. I became furious. No protection? How stupid can you be? You don't know how many other women he's been with and what diseases he might have. You could have put us all at risk. Get tested first thing tomorrow. She sobbed, I'm not a whore, and there are no other women. Robert promised his wife and me were his only ones. He loves his wife, but she's less interested in sex. He cheated and lied to his wife. Why would he tell you the truth? Did he promise you anything for the future? Marriage? No, we didn't have those intentions. You're lying again, aren't you? I know you planned something. How do you know so much? A guy like Robert always brags about his conquests. She fell silent for a moment before admitting, yes, we planned to spend a weekend together at a hotel. Lucky you. You're free to spend that weekend with Robert or any other horny guy who makes you feel wanted. She burst into loud sobs, pleading, no, no, please forgive me. I'll never do it again, I promise, please forgive me. With her retreat to the bedroom, I postponed any further questions until the next day. Given her confession during our recorded phone conversations, I saw no need for further investigation. Days later, she signed the divorce papers, and now our relationship is civil. We both still live in our old house. Eleanor, with help from her father, bought my share at a fair price. It's a good arrangement for our kids, who remain in the house as their base. I agreed to let them stay there, visiting me in my new apartment when they wish. Eleanor is content with this arrangement and has offered to let me stay until the divorce is final or until I find new lodgings. I'm on a waiting list for an apartment in a nice area. Neither of us is dating yet. I simply haven't met anyone, while Eleanor holds out hope that I'll forgive her. She insists neither she nor Robert has tried to revive their relationship. Eleanor's father tried to convince me to reconcile, even offering me his prized summer house, but I'm skeptical of bought affection. I met Linda, Robert's wife, to exchange information. I was surprised by her warmth and beauty, wondering how Robert risked his marriage for Eleanor, who became submissive during their affair. Robert confessed to Linda that Eleanor's willingness for kinkier sex, forbidden at home, was his reason for straying. Linda was taken aback when I mentioned Eleanor's threat of divorce over such acts. Robert's business setup led to Linda keeping their assets post-divorce, a costly consequence of his affair. Write your opinion in the comments. Thanks for watching and have a great day.